Hello everybody, this is Houston Brown with Houston Brown Photography, and in this video we're going to cover catalogs, preferences, and backups. Now this is one of 6 videos. I did an intro video that I recommend that you go watch real quick so you know what you're getting yourself into here and to kind of sum up all these videos. Otherwise, let's get into it. So I'm going to go up here to Lightroom and select Preferences, and we're just going to touch on a couple of things in here. First of all, over here in external editing, the file format, I use Photoshop. You could use TIFF, but I like the PSD files myself. As far as color space, ProPhoto RGB offers the largest gamut, so I use that, as I've heard recommended many times. So it's better to start with the larger gamut and work down, although we can't really see that full gamut on not too many monitors. So if you're a fortunate person to see all that, then you definitely want to be using that. Bit depth, 16-bit is going to give us the most information, although I've used 8-bit for years and didn't have any trouble with it. I just upgraded to a new computer, so I'm trying 16-bit now. I'd like to hear some feedback on that because I don't really know the pros and cons of that. I know the cons, and that is kind of slows things down a little bit as far as saving goes and file size. But we're going to try it and see where we go from there. The next thing we want to do is go over here to Performance. And if you do have a graphics card that can be utilized by the system, you definitely want to use the graphics processor. This is going to help speed up several things within Lightroom, Liquify being one of many of them, but I don't know what parts of the application that utilize the graphics processor, but you definitely want that checked if you can. The other thing is to put in your account information for Lightroom Mobile. If you're a Creative Cloud subscriber, you definitely want to get this turned on if you've never used it before. We're going to cover this in our 6th video, our last video. We're going to cover Creative Cloud in our last video. So if you want to see that, you can go ahead and jump ahead to that, but highly recommend that. I use it all the time. So that's it for preferences. I'm going to jump over here now to the catalog. So if we go to catalog settings up here, the main thing in here is this back here, backup catalog. I have mine set to never. Now that might make some of you guys cringe, which I don't blame you, but here's why. If I put this to once a month, once a week, every time it quits, whatever setting, it's going to create a backup of that catalog somewhere on your computer, whether it be an external drive or what have you. And that's all well and good. You want that, right? But I have CrashPlan, which is a cloud backup system. So I'm already backing up my catalog. So I don't need to make copies and copies and copies of these catalogs. And Lightroom will just keep adding catalogs and archiving them until 6 months down the line you go and look in your folder and you're going to see all kinds of backups, and it takes up a lot of space. As you can see up here, all photographs, I have almost 50,000 photographs in my library. So I'm going to jump over here. You can see where my catalog actually is, so I'm going to click Show, and that's going to bring up Finder and show you where my catalogs. Now I only really have 3 catalogs, and that's one called Picture This, one called SLD Client Images, and one Stock Photography. Now many of you may have multiple catalogs, but I suggest you keep them all in one place so they can easily be backed up. Going back to preferences, if I had this checked to where it was backing them up, there would be copies and copies of this in here. So I'm going to go ahead and click Picture This, and you can see this is only 3.4 gig. But if you keep making copies and copies of this, it will just build and build and build and build. Well, you don't need a backup copy that's 3 months old or 2 months old or 1 month old. If you're going to restore from any backup, it's going to be the latest backup, at least in most cases. So for me, this worked. I don't let Lightroom create a backup for me. Instead, I'm letting my local backup software do the backup for me. And we'll cover backups here in just a minute. So that's how I have that set up. So let's talk about how we're backing all this information up. So I've created this little diagram so we can visualize how all this is happening. So we all have our computer, which could have an internal drive or whatever. That's represented here by the master or the red drive on the external. So that's our main copy of images, files, etc., no matter what we're talking about. But in this case, we're talking about images, so let's stick to that, but it could be any file. Then according to the professionals, you should at least have 2 backups of everything. One locally, that is to say yet another external drive, and then one offsite, which could be a cloud backup in most cases, or if you want to take that drive and bring it to your neighbor's house and pick up another and just keep swapping those back and forth, or to a safety deposit box, etc. That always seemed like a pain in the butt to me. I don't know anybody that does that, but I suppose you could do that. But your cloud backup is probably going to be your most effective and efficient way to do it. The only problem with cloud backup is the initial start. If you have 30,000, 20,000, 10,000, 100,000 images, it's going to take a long time to get all those images up to the cloud. But you know, what the heck, it does it all in the background, and if it takes a week or 2 or 3 or several months even, then so be it. You could still have that other drive external as a backup. So just keep in mind, this is a redundant system, but it sure gives you a peace of mind. So we're going to take our master and we're going to go to our local backup on one copy or at one time of the day or week, and then another time we're going to go to the cloud backup. So now we have 2 different backups of our storage. And this is why I don't let Lightroom create catalog copies, because I already have this system creating 2 backups for me. So now this would work for your other files and whatnot. Now over here to the right, as you can see, I have some cloud backup services that are out there. I've only had experience with Carbonite, which I used a couple of years ago, I think when they first came out, and I quit using them because they didn't support external drives at the time unless you had a corporate account or a larger account, which I didn't want to pay for. And then I'd found some other third party which I gave up on, because even though they said it was unlimited storage, it was really 1 terabyte, because once I hit 1 terabyte they cut me off, and I called them and they said, well, you know, most people won't, you know where I'm going with that. So I left them. A couple of my IT friends have told me about Crash Plan, and they've gotten some really good reviews, and I really do like it. The interface is a little clunky, in my opinion. It's not as elegant as some could be, or it could be, but I really like it. It's very cost effective. Some others here on the list, which I just pulled off the internet, kind of like the top cloud backup services, iDrive, Backblaze, which I'm sure you've heard of, SOS Online Backup, which I had never heard of, but supposedly it ranks up there. You also have Dropbox and Google Drive that you could use, but they're really not set up with some of the features that these other third parties that provide. So go and look into some of those, see what you think. I recommend Crash Plan. I have no association with them whatsoever, so little disclaimer there, or anybody for that matter. So this concludes part 1 of the Lightroom workflow. If you found the video helpful, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to leave a comment or you have any questions, you know where to put that. Coming up next, we're going to talk about file structure. See you in the next video.